Well, I hope you enjoyed the short YouTube that I'm producing for this. This is a relatively brief selection of video clips and pictures that I took during the process of building this particular ring. This is a ring that I drew from a design that couldn't be reproduced commercially, and so I reproduced it myself and then transferred my drawing to a steel block and engraved the die and used it to produce this ring. So I hope it proves useful and informative, and I sure enjoyed making it, and I'm pretty pleased with the way it turned out. There we go. It's ready for trying out. Well, there's a couple of different ways to transfer your designs. This is something I do. I modify it from doing smaller things. I like to put just a little bit of white watercolor paint on the surface first. That just adds a little bit of bite to the surface and for contrast. Quick note, if you do this, you can also then use a soft graphite pencil to draw directly on things. That's what I do with my scroll work, is I'll just draw directly right onto the steel with an original. Okay, so we just add some white there, a little bit of water to kind of smooth that out. This isn't going to be my final product for this one, because for this I'm going to also then coat it with varnish, and that hopefully will help the transfer of the image. And you can also add a little surfactant to this. You notice that the watercolor is beating up a little bit. I don't usually do that, but you can use just a little detergent or something on your finger, and that'll help things smooth out really well. So, okay, I'm just going to let that dry well, and then I'm going to apply a small layer of Damar varnish from my paintings. Now, you can use a Q-tip or something like that, a piece of sponge. Don't do what I do. I just put my finger in the varnish and then put a very, very thin layer across the top of the metal. And what you want to do is wait for that to get tacky, and then put your design upside down, toner side down against it. Burnish it or press it nicely so that it sticks. And then what we're going to do is use acetone, and hopefully the acetone will dissolve off the polymer component of the toner, and it will stick to the metal, and that'll help produce a design that will guide us. Now, my transfers almost never are high fidelity, but they should be good enough that you can get the outlines. Alrighty, so that's pretty tacky. It's almost dry. And so what I'm going to do is just place this design on it. Make sure that it's stuck. Now, if the varnish is too tacky or too liquid, when you go to transfer using acetone, it won't work well. Just because I think that it kind of dissolves into the varnish and you don't get nice sharp lines. So it's got to be tacky so that things stick and remain in register, but not too tacky. So what I'm going to do now is simply wait a moment before I apply any acetone. Okay, I've got acetone now on a paper rag, and I'm just going to blot it on this. Now, you don't want to do too much. It's a matter of Goldilocks, just right. So let's let it dry a bit, and let's lift off and see if we got a transfer. Well, we did. It's not too bad. I might actually try to copy that. That's not a bad looking design right now. There are a couple of spots where you can't see the lines well, but with luck I'll just refer to the original drawing and I'll put those in with pencil, and then we'll start cutting it and see how it goes. Well, in case anyone's interested, this is just my mess of a engraving bench. This is where I keep my gravers and bits. Got a fair selection, and I try to keep them sharp. I use a Lindsay pneumatic. I have a foot pedal classic. I actually like the foot pedal. Many engravers prefer the palm. Maybe someday I'll try it. And I have a whole load of just miscellaneous garbage that I use. And I use a micro mortar from Fordham. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a graver. I've used a pencil to fill in some of the gaps. And I may simplify the design while I'm engraving. We'll see. I think I'll use a 96-degree graver. What that means, for those of you who might not know, is the angle at which the graver tip is formed. Different shapes and dimensions will give different kinds of cuts, and so there's a bit of a learning curve in figuring out what to use for what thing, and then it's a matter of personal preference. I have my engraving setup equipped for taking video or pictures, but I'm gonna try and do it just a little bit, just to give you a sense of the way I like to do this. And so what I've done is I've just placed the block of steel with the design in a vise, and it's a vise that I can rotate and look at through a microscope or a loop or my C-biggers. And what I'll do is I'll first just go through and engrave the lines. I'll start with the outline so I can get it registered in, and I'll see how much of the detail I can put in there with a graver. These designs don't have to be real deep, because they're just going to be impressing a design onto the metal. And for me, I will probably pierce most of them. And even if you're going to use oxidation to bring out the detail, it can be quite pretty. That does not have to be a deep design at all. The shallow designs are a little tricky to press, but I'll try to show you how I do that. But they can work out really, really well. Okie dokie. So I'll just start with the engraver, and we'll see how much of this I can get. Okay, I have the graver set to be fairly aggressive, because I don't know what to expect. So I also have a little jar here with the cutting oil that when I do steel, I often dip into. So all I'm going to do is first try to outline, see how this is going to cut. I don't like the way that's digging in. Okay, now I'm not doing what I would call fine engraving. I'm really just hogging out lines, trying to get this thing outlined. So what I've done is outline this piece and managed to get it more or less outlined. And I'm going to go ahead and just finish putting in the basic lines, and then we'll see about finishing it into something that might be usable. Well, I have outlined it. I'm not done yet. I'm going to use the micromotor and a small burr to put in some dots, and I might choose to use the burr to put in some pseudo mill grain on a couple of the lines too. I noticed a couple of asymmetries in my drawing. The most obvious were the blossoms at the two ends of the shanks. One is extended and one wasn't, so I cut them both short. And the other was in these like pumpkin shaped blossoms at the two sides. They aren't quite symmetrical, but that'll give character to the piece. So in order to get a sense of what I'm up against right now, I'm going to use a little bit of what we euphemistically call Potter putty, because Kevin Potter often includes some silly putty in with his die orders. And we'll see where we're at right now. Okay, without any further finishing. So that actually is looking pretty good. That's what the pressing would look like, pretty much. You know, if you want to think about it that way. It has some nice sharp lines, and I'm going to go ahead and just add a few more details with my burr and see how this goes. We'll try to elaborate it just a bit. Yeah, not bad so far. We'll see if I can do anything good with it. Okay, for shallow die, these are not super easy to press, but you'll notice I had put registration marks in the die so that I could keep it aligned. Otherwise, these things, you know, you get 1/4 of a millimeter off and you're screwed. So anyway, I'm going to, in my next trimming, I'm going to cut the registration marks off, and I'm going to use my burr and get this trimmed as closely as possible to give it one more pressing. It's almost there, but I know that there's detail in there that I can pull out. Anyway, so to align it, what I've got, I put an arrow, scratch an arrow back here, which will tell me the orientation it needs to go into the die. And hopefully now I have enough, just enough of the pattern impressed that it will register, and I'll hold it on with painter's tape or masking tape like I did there. And we'll see if I can get a pressing. That'd be pretty cool. And then I will do some piercing. Neat. So to guide piercing, I really do like to use this surface dye for metal that Kevin Potter pointed out. It goes on very smoothly and thin, and it just helps me realize where I need to drill the holes. Almost like always, I'm going to have to just be judicious. I won't pierce everything. And for my first iteration of this ring, I think I may grind away the prongs and put a 6x8 or an 8x10 half tube bezel there for a stone. I think that would be really pretty. Anyway, that's why I like this design. You don't have to use the prongs, but that shape is really nice. It will accommodate a round, an oval, marquee, even a small square, you know, so it's kind of a versatile way to have done these things. Okay, so I have put a quality stamp and my signature on the back, and I've cleaned up, I've made decisions on all the holes I'm going to drill for piercing. I've decided for this version I cleared the prongs, and I'll put a bezel in there for this first one. And I cleaned up the holes from the back. So it's ready to be pierced. Okay, no magic to this. It is exactly what it seems like to be, which is a lot of very careful sewing. There's that little diamond in the shank, and then I'll do a couple of these scales, and then I think I'll flip it over and do the other side so I don't lose track of what needs to happen. Let's turn this. And we'll just warm that up. Yeah, make sure the solder hellions are where they need to be. Give it a quick barrier flux. Fire scoff that ceramic stuff. Theoretically, you're supposed to be able to use fire scoff all by itself. I don't. I like it as an additional. Okay. I think I got it. Double check. Yep. Looking good. That'll clean up nicely. So, got a little bit into a pickle. Here it's stiff. And then we wash after we neutralize. And ready to be shaped and then finished. And what I'll be doing is putting a bezel here in the middle, I think, for a stone. I haven't decided yet whether I'll do a cabochon or a faceted stone. I really like that ring. That turned out pretty nice, I think. I really like that patterning. My gosh, the sides of the shanks, just right. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I was aiming for an 8.5, and it looks like that's going to be pretty close to the 8 on either side, and I'd rather not have to recut those. Yeah, that'll be okay. That'll look pretty sharp. Ooh, not bad. Not bad. Okay, I'll just make sure that little spot is out. And then it's just a matter of finishing. So make sure that the inside corner is not sharp, because we don't want it to cut someone when they're putting it on or taking it off. It should be comfortable if you clench your fist or close your hand on it. Let's see. Let's do a little bit of this coarse. I think it's a Cratex wheel or something like it. I ground them off with a diamond wheel before, but I need to just touch them up. There you go. Opening that back. So first though, let's let's position a pre-made bezel. I have these half-tube bezels I got from Rio Grande. I really like these. I can make them, but man, for the money compared to time, sometimes it's just better to buy something than it is to make it. But I know I can make it, which is good to know. So let me just position this, see if that's the right size. Yeah, I didn't calculate too badly. I'll just have to be centering that. Whoops. And soldering it. Now before I do that, since the ring has a curve in it, I'm going to hand file a small curvature on the back side of that bezel, just so it sits a little better and has a chance to really have solder flow underneath it. And then that will actually look pretty darn nice. Okay, so for not using prongs, that's not too shabby. Well, after I finished the ring, all I did to finish it was to set a very nice faceted amethyst, a 6x8 stone, and then I oxidized it, polished it up even further, and it was ready to go. So I've skipped a few steps in here. It takes a significant amount of effort to build a ring like this, but I really enjoy that process, and really trying to reproduce a hand-working technique or set of hand-working techniques that can be done by many people. Almost anyone can do this. It just takes a good deal of time. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this and create good stuff.